Hello. For your practice today, we are going to be using the wall. So have your mat set up so that the short side is up against the wall. Find some wall space where you have a little room. We'll be putting our legs up the wall. We will be like going sideways and then kind of spinning to get there. So have room. You may have to move some furniture or whatever, and have a pillow or a blanket for your head if you'd like. So go ahead, grab your things, find your spot, and join me on your mat. We will do a nice wall practice today. Use the wall to just help us stretch and get into places. Maybe there'll be some strengthening going on as well. A lot of times, tightness can feel the same as weakness, so sometimes both just happen. So we're going to start actually with legs up the wall. So go ahead and put your pillow or folded blanket wherever you think your head might land. You may have to adjust. And my favorite way to do this, instead of trying to scooch my butt closer, is to first go sideways and actually have my hip touching the wall. And then I do a little swing high kick action. No, just a little swing action where I start to swing so my legs are up. Yes, awesome. And then adjust your pillow or whatever. And maybe you need to adjust. And if you need to come out of it and go back in, go ahead. Because sometimes my butt still just isn't quite close enough. And then you can have legs just like maybe a little wider than hip distance here, and play around. You might feel a good stretch. Like I have tight hamstrings, so I feel a good stretch in my hamstrings. You don't want to lock knees. You want them to be a little loose. So you can play around with that. If you're not comfy, come out of it. If you're really not comfy, you can grab a yoga block and do it without the wall. But it can be just amazing for grounding effects, calming, actually great to do before bed, but that doesn't mean it's not great to do in the morning either. And just take a couple breaths here. Inhaling, filling belly with air. Maybe even on those inhales you feel a little stretch in those hamstrings. And then exhale, release. Check in with arms. Maybe they want to come out by your side somewhere, if that feels okay, or just wherever they would feel good, where you're not bringing tension into the shoulders. Love this. This is a daily stretch that I actually do. Like I said, I have tight hamstrings, and this just really helps that area. I used to joke that my kids would do this before bed, and I would tell them that's not settling down. You need to get settled. And here I went to yoga study and learned more about our body, and this is actually a very calming position, pose, yoga pose, whatever you want to call it, for us to be in. A lot of times when I teach kids yoga, we'll do this after school, and they love it. If you would like, you can play around with what does it feel like if you open legs wide? And it doesn't have to be to max capacity. I always say, like, it should feel like a stretch, but if it feels like, oh gosh, that doesn't feel good, like there's pain somewhere, or just feels like there's too much pulling, bring them in a little. But just another way to get a stretch. And especially, this is a supported stretch in a way that we're not always moving our legs. I always talk about how we're seated or we're walking, and the movement is always like in front of us, like one plane forward or backward, and opening up can often be a tight spot because it's just not something we do, but those hips need that stretch all around. And this one I do, like, please trust yourself when you're like, and that's enough. Come out of it. Bring legs back up or whatever. And actually, I'll tell you one more thing that we do that I like to do here is to bring soles of my feet together, knees out, like I'm doing butterfly pose against the wall as well. So soles of the feet come together, and you can bring them, keep them as high or bring them down as low. And then just gently feel like you don't even have to do anything, relax the shoulders. But sometimes I bring hands to my thighs and just gently press them open a little toward the wall. And I wouldn't even say like pressing, it's just gentle counter action here. Soften shoulders, breathe here. Check where you're holding tension and just see if you can release it. Maybe play around. Maybe you're pressing thighs. Maybe you're up toward your knees. Not really on the knees, but side of knees. Just play around. We'll take 2 more breaths here. Or like I said, trust yourself. If you're like, my body is done with that, be done. And when you're ready, slowly roll on to side and take a couple breaths here. This is still like the same as being upside down. So there will be some lightheadedness. So if you roll onto your side, take a couple breaths there, we can alleviate that. Believe it or not, that is, like the same effects of doing a handstand. So woohoo, we don't have to do handstands. And then when you're ready to make your way up to seated, go ahead and do that. If you have your pillow or blanket and you want to sit on it, feel free. We'll sit a little away from the wall first, but we'll use the wall a little more, even seated. Relax. Shoulders down, away from ears. Soften jaw. Maybe even like wiggle those shoulders or that head a little bit. Taking all the time you need. And just take a couple breaths here. No worries if you're like, oh my goodness, slowness, sitting in stillness or my thoughts is hard. Yeah, it is sometimes. Even practicing, can it get easier? Yeah, but that doesn't mean there's not hard days. And then inhale, reach arms up. Exhale, sweep them back behind you a little bit. And it won't be much like seated, but just kind of getting that stretch and continue that. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, bring them down. Sweep them behind you a little bit. And just do that, your own breath, your own time. Keeping shoulders down away from ears if you can. And if that means that when you reach your arms up, they don't go all the way, that's okay. Awesome. Inhale, reach arms up. Exhale, bring left hand down to your side. Push in so both of your sit bones are on the ground. Inhale, reach tall. Exhale, reach over. A little side body stretch here. So this left arm that's down, it can kind of like relax. Like it doesn't have to be holding you up. It can kind of relax. I mean, it still holds you up, I guess. But if you want a little bend in your elbow or whatever, and it's more about feeling this side of the body stretch. So tall first, then over, than anything else. Making sure there's not pinching or pain anywhere. And then turn your ribs down toward the ground. Reach that arm out in front of you a little bit, but shoulder can still be plugged in back, like doesn't have to be reaching up. Again, it's more about feeling a stretch. And then open up to the ceiling. Inhale, reach back up. Wrist circles if you need to. And then bring that right hand down. Push in so both of those sit bones are on the ground. Reach tall and then over. Again, just playing around with how can I feel a stretch in the left side body. And use your breath. You'll inhale and you'll feel that space stretch. Exhale and you're like, ooh, I've got a little more room. And then turn ribs down toward the ground. Arm reaches out in front, but shoulders plugged in. So it's more about feeling a stretch than reaching somewhere. Take a breath here. Feel stretch with your breath and then open up to the ceiling. Inhale, reach both arms up. And exhale, wrist circles as you bring your arms down. Wonderful. We will move against the wall if you can, and it's okay if I can't see you then. Got you scooting all around. We'll get cardio and yoga in. No worries. Take your time to get there. When you're there, see if you can scoot up against there, sit nice and tall. Have some of your upper back kind of touching, and then see if you can gently bring shoulders down and maybe back a little. So maybe they're not like super back, but they feel like they're like pulling opposite directions a little bit away from each other, and then soften so that it's not too much. And then tuck your chin a little. Back of the head is on the wall, and here's kind of, little line of posture for us. Take a breath here. On your inhale, you'll notice back at chest kind of pressing against the wall. Exhale, release. And we'll do one more. Now to make things a little crazier, we're gonna bring our arms to goalpost arms here. Yeah, and it's gonna feel crazy. And they don't have to totally be touching, but shoulders down away from ears, and with ideas that they're kind of being blown against the wall. They're being gently pressed there with like some imaginary energy. So it's not like full force. Maybe it's just a windy day. And then with that feeling of trying to keep them toward the wall, but they don't have to be, completely pressed there. Inhale, reach hands toward each other. So elbows still stick out, hands toward each other. Yeah, and you're like crazy and your chest might want to pop out. Leave that back, soften, shake the head if you need to. Exhale, bring those elbows, keeping them bent, but down toward your sides. Yeah. And then continue that. Again, like I get to spots, like if I get elbows down toward my sides, like my arms just want to pop right off that wall. And that's okay. You don't have to really like super fight it. Just notice what this is doing is strengthening and giving us space in this upper body at the same time. And it's okay if it feels crazy. I will tell you, you know who this is the hardest for? Bodybuilders, football players, like people with really big muscles up in this area, but a lot of tightness. So, and it can feel tiring. It's a lot going on. We'll do one more after this. Awesome. Then bring arms down to your lap. Relax those shoulders. We'll sit here with good posture, just a little more. Take a couple more breaths. If you need to, shake head no a little bit to release that tension that you likely brought into shoulders and neck. I did. Awesome. And from here, we will go ahead and move on to hands and knees. We'll work through a little cat-cow to just kind of release that spot a little more. So wherever you are, no worries. Inhale, chest forward, head up. Exhale, arch back, let head hang, press away, separating shoulder blades. And just continue that. And like, do it without worrying about doing it right. But like, if you need some little wiggles in your body, like do it to notice, like, where am I tight? And maybe when you're in cat or cow, you're kind of, don't be afraid to like wiggle those hips, move that torso a little. And then go ahead and just move into freestyling here. So maybe it's circling your hips. Maybe it's stretching arms out in front, leaning back and stretching into the armpit area. Like, just play around and get curious about your body and where you're holding any tension, where your body just needs a little stretch. Sometimes I just can't believe areas. Like, I'm telling you, my armpit areas right now, like, oh my gosh, so tight there. So just play around and move. And know your indicator of, am I doing this right, is, does it feel good in your body? Nothing should hurt. If you feel, pain, especially sharp pain, not good. If you feel stretching, that's like, gosh, this is a little uncomfortable, but man, it feels good, that's okay. Beautiful. From here, if it would feel good, come down to forearms, bring knees wide, and just move those hips back and forth, side to side. Again, getting into the spots that I've talked about where our hips don't move this way. You can even kind of lean bottom back into like a wide-legged child's pose if that feels okay. Knees are wide. You can bring forehead toward the floor. You can bring your blanket or pillow in front of you. I'm sending stuff flying. Or you can keep moving, like just what feels good to you in this moment. And make sure you're still breathing wherever you are, especially when we like to hold poses. We like to hold our breath. When you're ready, you can come back up onto hands and knees. Come down to seated. And this time, we're going to bring legs out nice and wide. And you can sit against the wall if you'd like. Can kind of just help hold you in a spot. I will tell you, this is my least favorite position. And yeah, sometimes like you might just have to scoot things, or it's hard to find wall space in houses now. Or even if you're leaning up against couch or something, but legs just wide. And then first check that your knees aren't locked, so they're not pressing down as hard as they can, that there's a little bit of, I don't remember what, little bit of bend there, so they're not locked down. If this is enough, just take some breaths here. If you're like, oh, I think I need more stretch, like this is enough for me. My hips are very tight lately. But otherwise, if you want a little more stretch, you can put froggy fingers down in front of you inhale, reach nice and tall, and exhale, crawl forward, hinging at hips. If you're like, gosh, I need something, you can bring kind of like blanket to put hands on or pillow. But it's really a hinge at the hips versus sometimes we get our shoulders and everything down. But if you're like, no, I'm okay, and check in with the knees. That's what we want to be careful here. You can sit nice and tall and let your breath do the work. So you get to play around with both. If you're reaching forward a little, hinging at the hips, or sitting tall and just letting breath do the work. Inhaling, filling belly with air, and feel like that inhale is sending to wherever you need stretch, and stretching is happening. And exhale, release. Take a couple more breaths here. This for me is so much easier against the wall. You can even check in with head if you want to lean head back. If you're sitting tall and tuck chin, you can. Do one more breath. And then be careful coming out of this. So maybe you want to kind of slide one foot in first and help it with your hands. And then the other. Shake out if you need to bring them out in front and shake them out. Oh, my knee is like, I've been having some issues with my body that we're working on, and it's getting better, but it's interesting how my hips have gotten tight. It's from my TMJ, moved to my shoulders, to my hips, and then extends down into my knees. Gosh, our body is all related. Don't ever let anybody tell you that. That's not the case. So just kind of we'll do like some torso circles, or maybe like wiggling back and forth. Just kind of a little more release in this hip area, torso area. And again, just feel it out and just make sure you are breathing and not holding your breath. Awesome. And come back to center. And you can set up, we are going to be lying down and feet against the wall again, but this time we're going to do that figure 4 pose. So if you want your pillow set up or whatever, so the figure 4 pose is when we'll bring our right ankle over to cross left thigh, but then we'll bring that left leg up to the wall, and you can use your pillow or blanket again. And this one, you just kind of got to like test it out and see how close or far away you want to be from the wall. If you want to scoot closer or move further away, come out of it and go back into it. I know it seems like, yeah, but I could just scoot up there, but you don't want to do that while you're bending knee and stuff. So I kind of bend my legs and decide, and then bring right ankle over left thigh. And you can even move that left foot in different spots on the wall to change the intensity. So just getting into that hip once more. Using your breath here again, inhaling, filling belly with air and feeling like you're getting a stretch to that leg. Yeah, and take your time. Like, this is your practice. This is kind of the beauty of being at home. Take your time. Get set up to make it feel good, I don't know about you, but sometimes there's thoughts in my head like, okay, I need to get there and just do it. I'm running behind. And it's like, no, there is no behind. Just take the time to make it feel good. Some people like to take their hands and kind of bring them to that left thigh, and then what happens is like my right arm presses against that inner right thigh and kind of opens that right hip up a little more. But check in with shoulders. If there's like too much going on and you're like, I feel a stretch without that, and this is just getting my shoulders involved where they don't need to be, don't do that. Do a demo just in case. Or sometimes I'll just bring my left hand, right hand to that right thigh and gently press away. Just like, but it's not forcing. It's just, like I said, gentle resistance and helping. Breathe here. And when it feels ready, go ahead and switch sides and take a little time between each side, to check in, where did I bring tension? What do I need to release? And then you can switch and maybe you notice, like my left hip definitely is a lot tighter, has a lot more going on than the right. So notice that. Remember to breathe here. So many ways the wall can help us, and it's neat. I love that it's never forcing, it's just some gentle support along the way. We'll take one more breath here. And when you're ready, you can roll on to your side again and take a couple breaths here, and then decide for your Shavasana, our end practice, we'll just be doing some breath work. So you can decide if you want to be lying down on your back, or if you want to be seated against the wall, or seated however. Just check in with what would feel good today. No right or wrong, just getting cozy however you can. Yes, as always, if you want to get warm too, you can always cover yourself with the blanket, put socks back on, anything. The goal is to be cozy and give yourself time to do that, especially when it's your practice at home. Well, even in the studio, I hope you do that. Option to stay with regular breath. Otherwise, if it would feel good, we will work with a little alternate nostril breathing. Not necessary. Sometimes if you're stuffy, it's not super fun, but we'll try it out. If you're stuffy and you want to try it, you don't have to actually plug one nostril. You can just pretend that there's light going through one nostril and then the other. But I'll explain. So first thing you're going to do is take a regular breath, inhaling through your nose and exhaling through your nose. And then take your hand, and up to you. If you're right-handed, I use my ring finger and my thumb finger, but you can really use any. You can use pointer thumb, like whatever feels comfortable to you. And you're going to plug the left nostril and inhale in through the right. Switch, plug the right, open the left, Exhale out the left. Inhale it back in that same left nostril. Switch. Exhale out the right. Inhale in that same right. Switch. Exhale out the left. Inhale in that same left. Switch. Exhale out the right. And just gentle plugging. Inhale in that same right. Switch. Exhale out the left. And just continue that, your own breath, your own time, for a few more rounds. This can really help with anxiety, bring a sense of balance and ease to the body. And I think it's helpful for me because my brain has to focus on what I'm doing. And the next time you breathe out your right nostril, go ahead and bring hand down and come back just to normal breath. And slowly bring tiny wiggles of movement to your fingers and toes. Turn your head from one side to the other. On an inhale, reach arms up above. Give yourself a nice long body stretch. On an exhale, relax, hands down. If you're lying on your back, go ahead and hug those knees in. Take your time making your way up to seated. No rush, just in your own time. And take a couple breaths when you're lying on your side. Like, you have all the time you need, so go ahead and take it. If you're seated, just take some breaths. Inhale, reach arms up. Palms together. Exhale, bring thumbs down to your heart. Touch them here. Take a breath and feel chest into the thumbs a little here. Exhale through your mouth. Pause here and think of one thing you are grateful for today. Bring a smile to your face, and thank you so much for practicing with me today.